Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers. I thank everybody that's involved with this process because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors. Welcome to Chapter 5 of the Festival of Storytellers, a wonderful international virtual book event. And in addition to the roundtables, we invite you to visit our author booths and they speak about their books. And on the weekends, we have Author of the Hour. And we are currently live on across all of the Reader's Magnet social media platforms. So don't forget to follow us and subscribe. Good afternoon or good morning, depending upon where you are. I am Ellie Gassetta. I am the moderator for the session of Carrying Words and Inspiring Stories. I am the author of One Caregiver's Journey and Generations of Good Food. I'm especially excited about this session because I spent 10 years caring for my mother, and caregiving is pretty close to my little heart. So I'd like to kind of go around and for each of you to share your interest in caregiving or carrying words and inspiring. David, let's start with you. You want to unmute and we can start. There you go.
Yes, thank you so much, Ellie. Again, my name is David Sedlak, and I am by profession a social worker, but I've been a pastor as well, and also am actively a chaplain in our local city, both for the law enforcement and the firefighters. And in that capacity, I have had to deal a lot with people in the community who have committed suicide or people who have experienced other severe losses. And addiction is especially important to me because I was a chaplain in an addiction recovery program. And I've worked in the field of addiction as a therapist, a counselor for many years, as well as with many, many broken people. I've written a book along with my lovely wife called Cleansing the Sanctuary of the Heart, Tools for Emotional Healing. I noticed that here there are a lot of other pastors and deacons and so forth, who are attending this. And so, our book is written from a uniquely biblical point of view with a lot of stories in it from people that we've worked with over the years.
Great. Shirley, you and we've already talked, so talk to me about, tell us about your journey with your husband for 12 years.
Okay, you're fine. Okay.
You need to unmute. Well, we still can't hear you. You need to unmute on the bottom of your screen.
Touch the mic.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Linda, I'm trying to get a hold of Shirley. I can hear you now. Okay, we're going to let Shirley talk if she can unmute. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There you go, Shirley.
Okay. Well, my husband, thank you. I'm glad to be here. My husband had 3 consecutive strokes, and his the plug got out of that, and he came home and he had a few more strokes, and he used to love to go get the mail, so I would, still send him to get the mail. And one day my girlfriend said, Bob was a block over from the mailbox, and I said I didn't know that. So, but he was still able to walk around, but later on he had another stroke and it put him in bed. But I bought him a lift chair. Pardon me? Yes, I bought him a lift chair. So I bought him a lift chair so he wouldn't have such a hard time getting up. And he didn't. A lift chair, and so he could try and get up without too much effort. And one day I seen him going onto the bathroom, and I went in, and the lift chair was still all the way back. He had climbed out of the lift chair. So he didn't really ever.
So you write children's books,
He didn't know how to use it.
Oh, you had to teach him how to use his lift chair.
Yes.
Okay. Let's get, Linda. Unmute your computer. Or have your helper help you unmute your computer. Hi, Tony. We can't hear you, Linda. There you go. Unmute her computer for her. Thank you. Okay, Linda, tell us about, are you have a caregiver, and your book is about your injuries that you've sustained. Yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And so you have an interest in carrying words, and you obviously have an inspiring story to share.
Yes. Well, this one is going to be a little different because I know about both sides of the coins, of the coin rather. It's carrying words are good, but sometimes harsh words can be better. And the reason I am saying that is because I had attempted suicide twice. And my first encounter with the medical profession, they were all loving and caring and attentive. And the second time, my encounter with the medical profession was totally different. I was spoken to harshly, and I was treated very coldly. And from that encounter, I learned that sometimes it takes those harsh words as well as those caring words to make you see that a drastic measure can be viewed so differently by different people. And to sum it up, those harsh words made me realize that suicide is not the answer. So,
That's
yes,
right.
I need those caring words, but those harsh words are what kept me alive. And that is why I'm here today to tell
Thank,
my story.
thank you. Uh,
You're welcome.
Robert, we want to unmute and tell us about you quickly.
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? It's great always to be here with Reader's Magnet. So I'm Pastor Robert, and I wrote a book called Foolproof. A little bit about myself. I am a pastor of Liberty Church of Baton Rouge. I've been a substance abuse counselor for over 15 years. I started in the military. And it's been a long road. I've had an opportunity to help people during some of the worst times of their life. When I got out of the military, I joined something in the city called the Traumatic Loss First Aid Team. And what would happen if there was something that happened traumatic in a family, and they say there was a suicide or someone died in a car accident, or so, they would call our team out to help the family in like an emergency situation before any counselors got there or anyone that could get there to help the family. They would call our team out, and of course, we're all counselors and social workers and things like that. We would come out and help the family in the immediate aftermath of a traumatic death. And so I had the opportunity to help people during those harsh times, and I've learned a lot about how people deal with traumatic events and how to help them through that, and what to say, what not to say, and sometimes not to say anything at all, but just to be present is some of the just most important aspects of being there. In my book, I talk about some of the things I've gone through in life and how where I needed just guidance. And I'm a Navy veteran, and I talk about how when you're out to sea, you need when you use all the tools on the ship, you have radar, and you have people outside that can see your lookouts, and sometimes visibility is so bad where you can't use your lookouts, and all you can use is radar, right? And so you have the things out there such as like a lighthouse, and you can use things like that. Well, there's times in life where you can't use your sight, right? And all you can use is what God has given you and the Holy Spirit. And he's like our radar, right? He's the one that guides us. He's our guiding point. And so I talk about if we use the strategies that God has given us, he'll guide us through those points where we don't have visibility, where we can't see through our natural eyes, when all we can use is our Holy Spirit that he's placed inside of us. And so those are the foolproof strategies that I talk about in my book to help us through the traumatic events, through the times when we don't know what to do, and all we can do is lean on his Spirit. So those are some of the things that I talk about, some of the things that I've dealt with, I talk about in the book, and some of the things that I've seen other people deal with, and how, God gets us through it, and not our own wisdom.
Now, I thank you for that. And that really is a lot of truth to that. Sometimes we just have to we need to rely on our moral compass to get us where we need to be in certain situations. Come back to, you're going to have to put some names back up for me. There you go. Tony, hi, welcome. Unmute and tell us a little bit about you and what brings you to the session.
Hi, I'm Tony Candela, and I wrote a memoir called Stand Up or Sit Out, Memories and Musings of a Blind Wrestler, Runner, and All-Around Regular Guy. So I was listening to Pastor Robert very carefully when he was talking just now about when you don't have your vision to use. Well, you know, in everyday living, people move on with life and they do what they have to do. And that's why I wrote the memoir, because I wanted to tell the public about what life is like as a blind person trying to do certain things. And I focused on my two athletic careers, wrestling when I was in high school and college, and then long distance running when I was in my 30s and early 40s. And ultimately, I wanted to talk about life lessons learned from participating in sport and doing it as a blind person. And for this workshop, I thought I have told a lot of stories about how people have taken care of me through the years. Probably I have taken care of not half as many people as have taken care of me, and how the most important thing that people who have cared for me have done is to give me what I need, just the right amount, just in the right amount of timing, the right timing, but not to overdo, to basically help me go forward, but not make me dependent with their caring behavior. And I realized that in writing the memoir, I got put back in touch with some of those things from my younger days. Thank you.
Good. Crystal, welcome. Unmute and tell us about your journey. What brings you to the Caring Words and Inspiring Stories today?
Hi, my name is Crystal, and I'm happy to be here at this session. My second time with Reader's Magnet this week. So what brings me to this session is because one of my purposes in life is to encourage and uplift others. And one of the ways I do that is always first by sharing my life's experience. And I know that I haven't, sometimes when I talk to people, I know that I haven't went through everything that other people have gone through. So sometimes I'm even sharing the testimonies of others that I have heard that will get that person through something that I haven't experienced. So also, I wrote the book From Meaningless to Purposeful, which is a true story about my life. And I just tell how my life went from meaningless to purposeful. That book was written out of obedience, but also from a caring heart, um, to encourage others who might be experiencing some of the things that I have experienced, such as sickness, a broken heart, struggles from being a wife, struggles from being a mother, and different things like that. So yeah, that's why I'm here.
Thank
And
you.
also, I agree with Linda um, as far as when she was saying that sometimes harsh words are just as caring, because I believe that the truth is not always easy for people to handle. And it is the truth that will set people free as well. And sometimes the truth will come off as harsh to those people, but the truth is caring as well.
Right. Tough love sometimes is better. Joseph, tell us about yourself. I know we have 4 more of us to get through, but I'd like to do it a little quicker. Joseph, can tell us about why you're here at Caring Words and Inspiring Stories.
I'm wanting to sit in on the program that's given by Reader's Magnet to see if I could be of some service, some help, giving some inspiration to give people a word to live by.
Uh, that's great. I thank you, and we're glad you're here.
Oh, thanks.
Tanya, tell us about you. You want to unmute, dear? Thank you.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, great. I'm a very loud person, so. Hi, everybody. I am so excited to be here today. This actually is my first time doing this with what is it, the storytellers, and
Yes.
it was because of another opportunity that I couldn't actually do that I'm here today, and that makes it wonderful for me. For in my journey, it means that I'm supposed to be here. So
Yes.
I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my book. It's called Found. Actually, I have 4 books I've written already, and I'm writing another one right now. And but this one is called Found in a Garbage Can: Generation X to Generation Next, the End of the Garbage Age, that I'm actually promoting right now. But it has a lot. Some people like to call it my biography, but I don't like to call it that. I just call it my story. It has a lot of really hard things on there, and who said it? Crystal and Linda talked about those harsh words, helping people, and some of those things that I had to go through myself, and now what I do is help others, because I'm a deacon, and I help others to get through their hard times, and sometimes it takes a harsher word. I even say that to say that Jesus himself, some of you know, pastors and so forth, that Jesus himself said, "Get behind me, Satan." That was harsh. But people always, people always think that he was just namby-pamby and soft and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes it takes a harsher word. And also, he says, he was beating the money changers in the temple. It took a harsher word to get them to be what they needed to be. And with my book, actually there's another book that I was going to talk about, but this one, I had to have a harsher word said to me. And it wasn't just a word, it was actions and changes and quite a lot of things to get me from one end of the spectrum back to following God. That was a very hard thing for me, a very, very hard time. I have 3 grown children and 5 grandchildren, and all of them go to church and stuff. I never would have thought that would have happened, living the life that I was living. I never thought that would happen, but it did. And I'm one that's very much up on having faith in God to make your journey what it needs to be. I did the same things that David talked about. I had 5 suicide attempts I made in my life. God showed me, Tanya, this is not going to happen. You're going to live and you're going to flourish, and that's what's going to happen because I ordained it to. But it took a lot of faith. It took a lot of the writing of my books. It took a lot of pulling my brain together. I'm bipolar, by the way, bipolar 2, type 2. And it took a lot of pulling my brain together to get right back to where God wanted me to be. He let me know very much that bipolar is not going to be my excuse either. So he let me know it's not going to happen, Tanya. But I like to help people through my books. They're all Christian books. And just wanted to say one more thing about that. That I'm writing a book right now. I'm writing a book right. You need to go. Am I talking too long?
We do need to move on.
Okay,
to give everybody an opportunity to talk.
Guys, go ahead and move on. I think I talked enough.
Michael, you want to tell us about your why you're here at Caring Words and Inspiring Stories?
Well, I'm a pastor, as you know, and I wrote a book. It's called Lucius, A Soldier's Journey, A Man's Search for Truth. Lucius is a Roman soldier, but he's a man of great virtue. He is very kind to his servants. He purchased them as slaves, but he bought their freedom because he didn't believe in slavery. His father did not believe in slavery. And he purchased their freedom, and he would give them the choice of either going home if they knew where their family was, or staying with him as paid servants. So he had servants who loved him. When he went to Capernaum, he was assigned to Capernaum. When he went to Capernaum, he saw that the synagogue was in disrepair. The people could not afford to build their synagogue because they were so overtaxed by crooked tax collectors that they didn't have the money. So he built them a synagogue. He was kind, and he was a Roman soldier, but he was beloved. And the truth was, he was kind where many of the religious crowd kind of was uncaring and unsympathetic. And I think sometimes today we see the same thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
As a pastor, we need to be sympathetic and understanding to the needs of others. Jesus said, when we talk about harsh words, Jesus said to the scribes and Pharisees, he said, "Scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites," he said, "you're whited sepulchres. You're ornate on the outside and beautiful on the inside, on the outside. But when you look on the inside, you're full of dead men's bones." And that's unfortunately many times what I see. And we need to care about people and love people.
I think some of okay, Mary, you're the tail end, and then we can move on. Mary and I've already talked quite a bit. Unmute, Mary. You have to unmute your computer.
Hi, you saved the best.
There you go. I saved the best for last. Absolutely.
Yes. My story is in 2014, I had a heart attack and went to the hospital, and I have a 100% blockage in one of my arteries in my heart, and I needed to have bypass surgery. But when the doctors went to examine to see exactly what I needed, two arteries had grown across my heart from the bad side to the good side, and there was nothing that they needed to do. God had already prepared it. God had already did the miracle work. And so I was inspired by the Holy Spirit to write my book, which is Stepping into Discipleship. Our journey begins, because God is alive and well, and he's still in the miracle making business. And he wanted me to spread that word that we're supposed to be making disciples for God. And that is our journey out here.
I think there's a lot of truth in that. I think that for me, it's probably a little different than all of you, because I was a caregiver for my mother for a period of 10 years. She broke her hip at 93, and she passed away here in my home at the age of 102. So for me, the whole my book is actually one of the things that I build my book on in the care, and I was a sole caregiver, is faith, humor, and love. And I think you have to have faith, not necessarily so much the religions, not necessarily so much the religious end of faith, as much as you have to have faith that you can do this. You can do this. This is caring for another person, caring for people who are struggling in their lives, caring for people who are going through hard times, and caring for yourself while you're going through hard times is difficult at best. But you have to have faith that you can do it. and you have to do it there. You have to be able to find some humor in all of this, because if you don't see that there's a humorous side in the dark sides of life sometimes, then you're just going to get drugged down with it. And then you have to do it with love. If you're caring for other people, you have to do it out of the goodness of your heart. And if you make this kind of a commitment, you have to stick with it. And caregiving, whether it's through entities or groups or organizations or through your field of work, is physically and emotionally exhausting. And I don't care what anybody says. It's a tough gig. It's a tough gig. And I learned, and I welcome any of you to jump in on this, but I learned that during the pandemic, caregiving took on a whole different meaning. Caregiving took on a whole different meaning during the pandemic, because all of a sudden, families were faced with, rather than isolation, families were faced with having to move, having to become multi-generational. They moved parents into their home. So in many cases, you had children who were trying to learn school online and remotely. You had homeowners and other children who were trying to work remotely and maintain a job. And then you had elderly people who were in need of care as well. And I think that the exhausting pieces of it became very difficult for people to learn how to be multi-generational. Many of them are still that way today because of the financial burdens of putting elderly parents back into a situation that they were in before. But the toll that it takes on everybody living in a family, and Crystal and Tanya, this may be more, Crystal especially, this may be more for you, but the millennials have become the largest group of caregivers in the United States. It's not necessarily people my age or the age of the rest of us. It is the younger people are learning to care. Now, I will ask you a question, and any one of you can unmute and respond, or all of us can unmute and respond. But has social media been good in caring? Has social media contributed positively in caring? And I ask you this because I have my own very definite feeling about it. Somebody want to tell me what they think? Crystal, what do you think?
I think social media, first of all, it can have a little of both sides, the caring side and the uncaring side. But also with the uncaring side, as we were saying earlier, the uncaring side just might be the truth that people don't want to hear. People don't want to hear the truth, about themselves. People don't want to hear the truth about the culture. People don't want to hear the truth about the government. People don't want to hear the truth about anything. And so a lot of people are now very sensitive and easily offended by the truth. But as for me, I use my social media platform for the glory of God and to put out the truth and to also be caring and encouraging. And, speaking of COVID, I remember really trying to encourage so many others during COVID, who I clearly saw wasn't, not to say that I'm above anybody, but that I clearly saw that wasn't in tune spiritually. Because first, I believe, You have to be there spiritually first. I think healing starts in the spirit first. And so I was trying to be there to encourage people with healing even during COVID. And so it can be both.
I think you're muted.
Okay, unmute me. Thank you. Do you feel that the advice that you always get on social media from people, because not everybody who's on social media giving you advice knows what it is to be a caregiver, or knows what it is to provide care, or knows what it is to provide assistance when someone is in a tough place? Is that always a good thing? Tony, what do you think?
I don't really know a whole lot about it, except that there are all these niche environments in the social media. So you can always find an interest group that really does know and are living the experience, and maybe enough people can be in that group that you'll get the variety of opinions that you need, but at least they're coming from a sensible place. So that's a possible advantage of the social media, if you can find those niche groups that really know what they're talking about.
Right, I agree with you there. Linda, what do you think? I'll come back to you, David. I'll come back to you. Linda, what do you think? And I'll come back to you, Robert.
Well, with social media, I had to learn how to control my own temperament and use it for good. Even though there were times when it was not so good for me, or not used so good for me. But
me too.
As I said on last night's roundtable, God is first and foremost in my life. So I just use social media for good, regardless of how I get treated. And I treat people like how I need and want to be treated. And I just let God do the rest. So
I think that's a great thing.
Can be good and bad, but I use it for good always.
Thank you. David, I didn't mean to cut you off, and then I'll come to you, Robert. David.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
One of the challenges of social media is that it disconnects people.
Yes.
In a sense, relationships become more difficult when you're not here face to face. It's much more challenging. But at the same time, it did provide a function, particularly during COVID, for example, where some connections could be made. Let me give you an example. When George Floyd was murdered, during the COVID times, I go to a Black church, and many of our members were traumatized, including me, especially when that video was played over and over and over and over again. It was just traumatization over and over again. And one of the things that we did in our church, we couldn't meet face to face, but we did a debriefing session, so people could talk about how they felt, and could get support for how they felt to process the trauma, even during the time of COVID. So again, it's good and it's bad if we use it for good.
Robert, Robert?
Yes.
Coming back to you.
There's a couple of things that I think is important for us to understand, because I have teenagers, and some of the times that in this time frame that we raise our kids in, they don't go outside a lot. They don't play with other kids a lot. They look for a lot of their relationships from social media, which is, to be honest with you, we do the exact same thing. We look for a lot of relationships off of social media. We look for a lot of our comfort, and for people to justify us and justify our feelings and the way that we live our life off of social media, because that's our biggest sample right? But the problem is that's where we're not going to find good care on social media. That's where people are their boldest. All right. So if I have a disability, if I have an issue, if I take it to social media, I'm not going to find as much care as I want from social media. What I'm going to find is people being their boldest, baddest self. They're going to say things that are going to hurt me more than they're going to say things that are going to feel good, because they're going to say things that they don't normally say to people's faces, because they have the
Yes.
ability to say those things on social media. So even if I have a disability that normally they would not joke about in my face, they're going to joke about it on social media. There's people that tell people to kill themselves on social media, and they actually go do it. There's people that talk about, babies. There's people that talk about blind people. There's people that talk about all kinds of things that are hurtful on social media. So I can't find my comfort from social media. Those harsh words that motivate us from people that care about us, you're not going to find that on social media. You're just going to find harsh words on social media.
Well, I have to
right?
tell you that I always had, back in the dark ages when we were just first starting out, even with email and computers, and everybody was communicating just on email. And then as it went to communicating on social media, whether it's in a group, a chat group, or a tribe of some sort, it's the way to hide behind. You hide behind that word. You hide behind, and it's a great thing. Now, if you try to give some sort of honest to God advice, happened to me was, I was on a site where a young woman continually spoke about how she needed respite from her caregiving. Her mother had dementia. The repetitiveness was driving her crazy. She was actually starting to think about harming her mother. She was thinking about what could she do to harm her mother to get her out of the way so she could go back to her original life. And I watched this conversation with all the people in this group who kept saying, you need to go to therapy. You need to get help. You need to go to therapy. You need to learn to cope. Well, I didn't have social media. I didn't rely on any social media when I would care for my mother. And my only response was, who's going to sit with grandma while you're laying on the couch crying, right? Who's going to sit with grandma? Who's going to take care of your problem while you're trying to resolve it? My response was very simply that it's okay. It's okay to say, you know what? I'm not cut out to be a caregiver. Not everyone is cut out to offer advice. Not everyone is cut out to be empathetic or to put themselves in that situation. And when I said, it's okay to say, this is not my gig. I need some help in finding care for my mother. I was thrown off the site.
Right.
Yeah, I was thrown off the site.
That is the disconnect.
Like, shame on you
that is the disconnect.
even thinking something like that. But it's like, that is the reality. The reality is that not everyone's cut out to be caring of others. Not everyone's cut out to be able to do the things you have to do to inspire or to care for others. And that's my personal story. I mean, I was thrown off the site, and it makes you sit back and say, okay, what's going to happen to that? What's going to happen to that girl's mother? Where's?
And Ellie, that is the disconnect. That is the disconnect between
chaos.
That is the disconnect between when we go to strangers for advice versus when we go to people that we trust, and even people that we consider, professionals, that can really speak
Yes.
into our life, like the nurses, the doctors, the people that are able to say, okay, this is what we can do. This is how we help you. We can send a nurse to your house once a week. We can send somebody to give you a break versus going to
Yes.
strangers that know
Yes.
nothing about you.
And what, Tanya?
I agree with that. I just wanted to say that when it comes to social media, you can't look at social media for any kind of care. No kind of care. It's almost mechanical, even though people are on it. It's almost mechanical. And I keep hearing you say about Ellie. I keep hearing you say about taking care of your mom. Was it your mom or your grandma? And the thing
My
is,
mother.
I keep hearing that. That's exactly what my 5th book is about. It's called the Gray on the Inside, the Other Side of Life. And the reason why I did that is because I just turned 60. So when I turned 60 out here in Fall River, Massachusetts, I became a senior citizen, and that was weird. That was really weird. But now I understand, and I'm looking at, whoa, what is my care going to be later on, and that kind of thing. So I've been interviewing older people, because that's where you're going to get this information from, what they need, what they want, and stuff like that. The care that you're talking about, they want to be able to even choose who it is that takes care of them.
Oh, absolutely.
And I just wanted to make sure I said that social media is just not a place.
Now, social media, I will say that there are a lot of sites on social media who offer assistance, who offer help, who can tell you about programs that are available in your area, that can tell you about where you can go to get help. But when you're in a basic chat group, that's not so much all the time, because not everybody now on other groups. Yes, Michael. Unmute. Do you have to unmute? There you go.
I really enjoyed this chat.
Oh, good.
I look at social media much like I look at these folks who say, when you ask them, where you go to church, and they say, well, the TV pastor is my church. I don't go. TV pastor's my church. Well, when somebody has a TV pastor for their pastor, basically what they're saying is, I don't want to go anywhere where someone may ask me to do anything. But on the other hand, call your TV pastor when you're sick and in the hospital and ask him if he would come and hold your hand while you're going to have a very life-threatening procedure in the morning. You're not going to see your TV pastor there. Well, Facebook friends are I know people say, I have 450 Facebook friends. Well, I always say, do you know what the definition of a friend is? A friend is someone who comes to you in your darkest hour. Job had 3 friends. They came to him when he was in the trash, sitting on top of the trash heap. They were his true friends. They came to him in his darkest hour. Facebook friends, man. I'm a hands-on person, always have been. I like an inner circle of friends who I know I can always depend on, and whose, when I speak to them, I know it will never go anywhere. It will never be said to anybody else, and I know I can always trust their counsel. Much better than just have 300, 400 nameless, faceless people somewhere out there who say, well, they're my, and then the minute I ask them a difficult question, or I ask them if they could give me some assistance of some kind, guess what? I look on Facebook and I'm being unfriended. A true friend. We need to have true friends, an inner circle of real people who we really know, who we can depend
Mary.
on.
Yes. we're down to 10 minutes. Mary.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
What I think about social media is that these are lonely people. They don't have anything else to do. They don't have anything in their life that's exciting to them. You know, they want to tell people when they get up, they brush their teeth, they're gonna go in there and fix some food. You know, to me, this is people that need help. They really they need help. They're lonely people. They don't have any friends. And
No.
Facebook is the only thing that they can associate with to say, I got some friends. I don't get on Facebook very much. I just go on there and see what my grandkids are talking about.
So
I thank God.
when we're yes, what, Linda?
Yes, I thank God
Yes.
that I use Facebook in a sensible and responsible manner always.
I think that's
And Ellie,
I
I
think
didn't
that's
get
how you
to
have to look at it, but not everybody does.
yes, that's true. And I didn't
Mm-hmm.
get to say the name of my book because I was late getting to the discussion. But the title of my
Mm-hmm.
book is The Day My Life Changed, an Accident Survivor. And it is available on my website, www.lindacrosbyauthor.com.
Thank you. Tony, did you want to say something?
Yeah, you know, it has to do with just the thing that we all do, which is to write. We write books. I have written essays that I've submitted to some electronic magazines, little small ones. And so one day, about a year ago, there was a killing in the subway here in New York, where a homeless person with mental health issues acted up inside a subway, and an ex-Marine tackled him and then ended up choking him to death, almost like what happened with George Floyd. And the whole community went up in arms. And I wrote an essay about this for my little electronic magazine that I belong to. And all the people with different types of mental health issues started reacting to what I had written, not necessarily saying to me, hey, you wrote something incorrect or uncaring, but more, you have just brought out into the open feelings that make me now want to talk about my experiences. And so we have to remember that we have a lot of power just in our ability to write. And wherever it is that we happen to be writing, social media, electronic magazines, books, et cetera, when we write, we have a lot of power. So we have a duty to be really careful when we write, to be very kind, and not to be too stereotypic, and not to make too many assumptions. You know, you'll always do well if you're kind.
No, I agree. And you touch on something that is, I think, very dear to my heart, which is, if you can be anything at all on any given day, be kind. If you can be anything at all on any given day, be kind. And the other thing that I think during the pandemic that struck me was, be the change you want to see. Be the change you want to see. If you, and a lot of this has come from my years of caregiving, because I was very fortunate to care for someone who was very docile and very gentle and very loving. My mother was not combative, and I know that a lot of caregivers deal with that, and that's a whole different ball game. But be the change you want to be. Be kind. When you're in the grocery store, today it's nothing to be in the grocery store and see people arguing in the produce center, my mind says, you got to get your cart and you got to get the hell out of the produce center. Because what if somebody has a gun? What if they pull a gun? And that is something that strikes you today. We have lost our ability as a society to find a connection, to be kind. And yes, I agree with you, Tony. Sometimes writing about the kinds of issues that you wrote about, I write a monthly article for an organization that I belong to. And I always try to find something that isn't, relative or everyday. I try to find something that people will open their eyes and think about, and it will make them want to be a better person. What if we have 4 minutes? Have I missed something in terms of we have found meaning and purpose in caring? We have found the importance of taking care of you, which is something I didn't do very well while I was a caregiver, of taking care of me, of you all in your day-to-day lives deal with resilience and deal with how to build that resilience in your communities. We have connections with each other and try to build connections that are meaningful. We've all had to deal with grief and loss, and that's another whole issue. And we celebrate our small victories. We celebrate the victories of we've come a long way. I think we've come a long way in how we care about each other, and hopefully we can learn to be better people all the way around. We have 3 minutes. I offer you. Anybody want to say something? Joseph, David, Michael, any of you want to say something? Mary, Linda. Yes. Go ahead.
I think as caregivers, we just do the best we can. I didn't take very good care of myself when I was taking care of my husband. I lost about 30 pounds doing while I was doing it, and I thought I was taking care of myself, but
I did too. I wasn't either. I did too.
Okay.
I did
too. Not. We just think about it more. And
yes.
So that we eat. We feed them 3 times a day, but then we don't eat at all.
And they will always say, well, you're going to get sick. But I think you're better off in trying to find balance. Even if it means you step outside and breathe some fresh air for a bit, and then you got to dive right back into where you were. Those of you that work with organizations or work with a lot of people probably get into. Robert, was it you that talked about working with firefighters and working in those kinds of situations?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just have to deal with what's at hand.
Right. You don't know what you're walking into sometimes.
No.
And what the emergency is, right?
No.
I recently did a seminar for pastors called Creating Healthy Boundaries in Pastoral Ministry. Many of us as pastors, we believe we're supposed to be available 24/7, but we can't do that and survive. There's too much burnout among pastors who leave ministry or become ineffective.
Yes.
Ellie.
We're ending up on this. I hope that all of you enjoyed the session. I certainly have enjoyed talking with all of you. I thought it was, thank you, Tanya. I thought it was a great time for all of us to connect on all of our different levels. Mark, do we have more time or are we done?
Ellie.
Yes.
Yes, I just would like to say that my husband, Roy, we call each other sweet baby, and he's my caregiver, and he takes very good care of me, and I thank God for him every day. Every day.
I could see that.
Thank you.
You can see him right behind you with that big smile.
Yes, absolutely. I'm blessed, truly blessed.
Yes, ma'am. I would say maybe we all are truly blessed.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that maybe we all are truly blessed. And you know, we've got a roof over our head. You've got people that love us. You've got a full belly, and you know what? We're a heck of a lot better than 99% of the people, right?
Yeah.
Amen.
And we have life.
Yes, ma'am. I agree. I think that we're just a lot better than everybody else at this point in what we can do. Yes. Yes. I thoroughly enjoyed this session. Tony and Crystal were here, and Linda was here yesterday for our session yesterday on storytelling. But I thank you. This is obviously something that's very dear to my heart, but I can tell that it's also dear to all of your hearts as well.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you.
It was an honor.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for taking care of us.
It was wonderful.
Thank you all very much. Have a blessed rest of your day. And
Bye.
Mark, I send it over to you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Wait. No, she said wait.
Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.